Good morning. I will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Executive Committee for May 17th, 2017. I am Mayor Betsy Hodges, Chair of the committee, joined this morning by Councilmember Reich, Council Vice President Glidden, and Councilmember Gordon. We are a quorum of the committee and can conduct the city's business. We have three items of business before us today. Our first, the 2017-18 non-represented employee salary schedule. Second, the political appointed employee salary schedule. And third, the appointed position in the Human Resources Department, a Director of Total Compensation. So I will ask Mr. Giles to come up to give a presentation on the 2017 and 2018 non-represented employees salary schedule, to be followed by the politically appointed employees salary schedule. Good morning, Mr. Giles. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of the Executive Committee. The two items before you today are kind of annual types of things that we've done in the past, but in terms of looking at some other types of changes that we're looking at in the city, we thought that it would probably be wise to bring 2 years worth of adjustments for these two groups. The first group, looking at the non-represented employees, we're talking about a group of 170 employees. Total expenditure at the beginning of the 2017 year was $14,163,163. We're recommending that we look at a 2.25% increase for this particular salary or wage schedule on March the 1st of 2017, and then a 2.35% increase on February the 1st of 2018. When we start looking at this on a cash basis, this fits very nicely within the 2.5% financial direction for each one of those years. The only thing that we have to be aware of is that there is a 2.35% tail that's moving into the first month of 2019. That amounts to about $29,000 or so. But that's the recommendation for the non-represented employees. For the politically appointed employees, I think we need to remember that in 2016, we changed the structure of the salary schedule for the politically appointed employees. That particular group now has all of them in steps, and so since we count the cost of steps against people, this is going to end up being a little bit more, because I don't think that it's fair to kind of punish them because of their step costs, which we kind of caused. We also think that it's important that we treat the politically appointed employees similarly to the non-represented employees. And so we're making the same recommendation for the politically appointed employees that we made for the non-represented employees. And that's a 2.25% increase on March the 1st of 2017 and a 3.25% increase on February the 1st of 2018. In both of those years, we exceed the financial projection. The first year, looking at the politically appointed employees, we exceed that 2.5% projection by $9,000. And in the second year, we exceed that 2.5% projection by $15,000. Don't believe that that's something that's unreasonable. We're looking at 170 employees in the non-represented group, 36 employees in the politically appointed group, and we make this recommendation for continuity, similarity, and to give a little breathing room for that.
Questions for Mr. Giles? Council President Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I apologize for being late. So we are acting today on the non-represented and the politically appointed employee salary schedule. And in this mix, the non-represented would be people, tell me where they are in the organization.
These basically are individuals in the city of Minneapolis who are not in a bargaining unit, and they are not appointed employees. These are individuals in the classified service. They work virtually in every department. We're only talking about 170 people. We're looking at a cost of a little over $14 million at the beginning of 2017.
And so what, I guess, I know Human Resources has some non-represented people, but what, when you say they're in other departments that would be non-represented? What other kind of job titles are we
All
talking
the
about?
supervisory departments that are all the supervisory types of employees in the infrastructure departments. Infrastructure, I'm talking about in human resources and the finance department. Some people in CPED in terms of their particular group, and IT, their supervisory people, none of them are represented.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I did speak to Mr. Cronk yesterday too about, obviously we aren't dealing with the appointed people. So let's tell everybody what our process is for the appointed people for their salary increases.
Last year, the council approved the appointed official salary schedule, or not appointed official compensation administration plan. In that plan, the authority to make adjustments to the appointed employees, that was ceded to the city coordinator in collaboration with the chief human resources officer and the chief finance officer with a maximum of 2.5%. That's the extent of the city coordinator's authority without coming back to the council. During that same thing, we also looked at it in terms of market adjustment. And the city coordinator, under the same conditions, has the authority to make a market adjustment up to 2.5%. It has the obligation to report to the council on all of the adjustments that were made over the course of the year.
And so when would we get that report then from the city coordinator?
When would you get the report?
The report about all the adjustments that were made?
You should have gotten a report at the end of 2016, and I would expect that you would get another one at the end of 2017, unless you wanted it more frequently.
No. Did we get one, Mr. Cronk? I don't, okay. All right. I want to also, at this point, and I thought maybe we'd be closed, but what the heck, it's open. You know, one of the things that we'll have to decide on as a council at the end of the year is compensation for council members. And I really want to go on the record to say that I'm concerned as I look at how in the history that I've been on the city council, the gap between the people that are at the highest level in the city and actually the city council members and their compensation. And it's our decision about, you know, what rules we use for our compensation. So I'm not blaming anybody, but we keep falling farther and farther and farther down the scale of compensation for employees. And so I wish that we would, and Mr. Giles, I know you're on your way out the door, but I really want us to think about when we have time here before we have to make the decision in December about what the next 4 years will be for compensation for council members, to perhaps look at other municipalities across the country where they have full-time council members, where they fit in the compensation structure in their cities, and see if it is time for us to make some sort of adjustment for our council members. So, you know, we've lived through some really hard times, and you know, I think, Mr. Giles, you always do a really good job of looking at our average labor settlements, which is how, you know, our compensation is adjusted year by year. But it's I think more challenging when I mean, we have people that are senior officials in the city that make twice as much money as council members, and that's a challenge then for elected officials. Thank you.
Chair Hodges, Council President Johnson, we have done salary surveys for the council members before.
Mhm.
We would be more than willing to do those salary surveys again.
Okay.
And provide you with the information, and you all have the authority to set your own salary for the incoming council.
Mhm.
And we can just provide the information to you, and we'd be more than willing to do that if that's what people want to do.
Thank you.
There is a little bit of a challenge, though, when we start looking at other jurisdictions, similar size and full-time councils, that group is kind of limited.
Mhm.
So we're going to have to take a look at some things and possibly do some extrapolation. So it won't be just a straightforward numerical type of thing. We will have to do some mathematical manipulation so that we can get to what we believe a fair number might be. And then you get to decide whether you like it or not.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Giles? If not, then I will move both, but I will move first the staff recommendation on item 1, 2017 and 2018 non-represented employee salary schedule. All in approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. And then I will also move the staff recommendation for item 2, 2017 and 2018 politically appointed employees salary schedule. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That also carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Giles. And while I know that you will be here with us for some time, I am also aware that I believe this may be your last official presentation in front of the Executive Committee in your current role, and wanted to thank you here and say congratulations. You don't necessarily have to do this again in your official role, and appreciate very much the work that you have done with us here at the city.
Well, thank you very much, Chair Hodges. I probably will be back before this group a couple of times, probably in closed session, because we've got some labor agreements that we're closing out. We've got some out there that are on the horizon. So I'll probably be around for that. And they have graciously tempted me to go into a phased retirement thing so that periodically I'll be showing up for things.
I think that was more for our sake than yours, Mr. Giles. We're going to need a long runway to accustom ourselves to your absence. So thank you for your willingness to serve in that way as well.
Thank you. You're very kind.
We will move to item 3, appointed position in the Human Resources Department, Director of Total Compensation, Ms. Nelms. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Hodges, members of the Executive Committee. We are here to ask you to consider the approval of a new position in Human Resources titled Director of Total Compensation. The Human Resources Department is restructuring its Employee Services Division upon the retirement of the current Director of Employee Services this week. The proposed reorganization will result in an expanded unit that will entail employee benefits, classification, and compensation. The position will be responsible for coordinating and developing and implementing a comprehensive approach to total rewards that supports recruitment and retention of well-qualified and high-performing employees. To that matter, I will actually ask the Chief Human Resources Officer to come up and talk about how that structure looks and answer any questions you have about the organization and the business model for that. But before that, I'll explain the value of the job as we've evaluated it through the classification process. We are going to ask that you adopt the findings that the proposed position meets the criteria in Section 20.1010 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances, City Council to establish appointed positions. We're going to ask that you approve the appointed position titled Director Total Compensation, which has been evaluated at 625 total points and is allocated to grade 13. We ask that you approve the corresponding salary schedule in accordance with the appointed compensation plan, which has a range of $110,149 to $130,574.
Ms. Ferguson, good morning.
Good morning, Chair Hodges and Mayor, members of the Executive Committee. As we all know, Mr. Giles will be retiring this week as the Director of Employee Services. And in that role that he currently has, the functions of classification, compensation, benefits, wellness, and labor relations report to that particular position. And so when we've taken a step back to look at, number one, what would be in the best interest of the city, and then allows us to have a much more streamlined way of approaching total rewards and compensation and classification. And then at the same time, recognizing that we cannot no longer continue to have all of those functions report to one single function. Mr. Giles did a remarkable job in leading those functions, but realistically, it would be very difficult to find someone with all of the competencies and capabilities and skill sets that he currently has. So what we've done is looked at the best practices in the field of human resources, which support total rewards, total compensation. And through that process, decided that the best way to structure the position was to have all of those functions, classification, compensation, benefits, and wellness, report to total compensation director position. What that allows us to do as a city is to look at a comprehensive way of how we view classification, compensation, and benefits, and take a much more strategic and much more holistic approach. It also allows us to be more flexible. It also allows us to even more align with our compensation philosophy as a city. And it also allows us to be able to provide a much more customer service focus to the members of our employees, as also to the city of Minneapolis. I am available to stand for questions. We are not asking for additional allocation. We're going to realign the position around our current salary structure within human resources. Now I'm available to stand for questions.
So if I might, Ms. Ferguson, what you are saying is, one, Mr. Giles is literally irreplaceable,
Yes,
and two, it will take more than one person to do his work.
yes.
Any questions for Ms. Ferguson? Council President Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So are you at the point that you could give us like an organizational chart with duties or?
I do have a functional organization chart that I'm happy to share with you now,
Okay.
if you'd like.
Sure.
While the org chart does not have, here,
I think
right.
that mic is on now. Good.
So this is it's not a person chart, it's a functional chart. And what this shows you is what the structure will be with the total compensation director position. And we did this because we felt that this would be the best way to help us achieve our long-term goals as a city.
Questions about the org chart or other questions?
Thank
Council
you,
President
Madam Chair.
Johnson.
So are we currently recruiting then for this total compensation position as well as the labor relations position, or where are we at in that process?
Right now with the labor relations position, we are working with the search firm. We have finalized the position description for the Director of Labor Relations. It's now in communications, and we anticipate being able to communicate that out this week. And then for the total compensation position, we are looking internally first because we believe we have someone with the skill set, and we will be posting additional information on that within the next couple of weeks.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? Then I will move the staff recommendation regarding appointed position in the Human Resources Department, Director Total Compensation, and like the other two, also to refer the matter to the Ways and Means Committee. Is there discussion? I believe I already made the point about the value of Mr. Giles to the enterprise. I think that this doubles down on evidence to that effect and that fact, and renew my thanks to Mr. Giles for his service. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That carries. Seeing no further business before the committee, we are adjourned.